HaloPSA Integration Runbooks. It's something that adds extreme power to your HaloPSA instance. A lot of people like HaloPSA and HaloITSM because of the benefits with automation and the fact that even when there's something that isn't built into the system, there's often a way to achieve it. And most often this is done using the Halo Integration Runbooks. A lot of people on the Discord channels particularly ask around how to do integration runbooks, and it can get quite advanced. And so a lot of people want to know how they can get started and how they can use this really powerful tool within Halo. So I wanted to put together a series of videos to help get people started, MSPs and internal IT teams, to help get you started with the runbooks and how you can start to use that to your advantage. We are going to start at quite a basic level and then gradually work towards more advanced configurations within the runbooks themselves. So hopefully this applies from even just getting started and you've never touched runbooks before, all the way through as we add some more of this content to more advanced integrations you can do with third-party tools such as NinjaOne, for example. So hopefully this will be useful to you. I'm going to share my screen. I've created a new trial of HaloPSA. So we're going to go through and set this trial up now. The first thing I'm going to do is just walk you through where to start with runbooks, how to get them. I'll say this is a brand new trial. So if we go to configuration, and you'll find you can either search for custom integrations on the search bar, or you can find it down the left hand side under the integrations menu option. But you can see we've got custom integrations. Inside custom integrations, there's these three buttons, and I'm just going to walk you through what these all are initially. So we've got under custom integrations, we have custom integrations and methods, and then we have the integration runbooks themselves, which we'll come on to in a moment. The custom integrations are basically, these handle the authentication and the base configuration for any integrations that you're going to use methods on. So you can see that straight out the box from a trial instance, Halo have kindly set up some integrations. So we've got, in particular, NinjaOne and Central OpenAI are all quite useful. You'll also see here one in the list that says own. Now, we'll come on to configuring this in a second. What it basically means out the box is that you can interact using HaloPSA's own API functionality. And for a lot of the basic configurations that we're going to talk through in terms of runbooks, we are going to be speaking about Halo's own API functionality rather than a lot of third-party integrations initially, because there's so much you can automate within Halo, just within daily tasks that you're doing, and you can do that just using Halo's API. Then as you get more advanced with the runbooks, then you might want to start looking at how do you communicate with other third-party applications, pull information from something else and bring it to Halo, or have something in Halo trigger something from a third-party application. So these custom integrations are basically, as I say, the authentication mechanism. They're the base template as to how you communicate with these different third-party applications. And own, out the box, basically gives you some ideas as to how to interact with Halo's own API functionality here. You'll also see, if we drill into, let's say, for example, the OpenAI integration, you'll see a methods tab. So methods is the separate button that we saw on the screen before, but you can also see a list of methods that have been pre-completed for Halo trials as of now, to give you some ideas as to how you can use some of the functionality, in this case within OpenAI, and the list of methods as examples here. And you'll find some of these on like on NCentral. There's a list here of some ideas again, like creating tasks. And I believe there's one in NinjaOne for triggering an automation, like a script on a NinjaOne device as well. So now Halo has started to add some base information in to try and help get people started as to how you can utilize integration runbooks and these different methods. To give you an idea of what the methods are themselves, so we talked that the custom integration part here is how do you communicate with this third-party application. The method itself is what the trigger is going to do, or what the particular API call will do. So you can see if we just create a new one, just an example here to give you the screen, you can see that we have to give it a name. So that is, what action are we performing using this particular method. The integration is already selected because I chose it from within the Ninja One option, but you can choose your own integrations here, or you can have it completely standalone and do the authorization straight as a standard API call without using any of the baked-in templates effectively. And then for the rest of it, we've got information on what type of API call is it. So is it a get, post, put, patch, or delete, depending on what the what it is you're trying to do with this particular API call. You've got the base URL or resource URL, which is affected by the integration that's selected. So you can see if I drop that down to own, it's then bringing up the API URL, base URL for Halo itself. And then in this side of the input boxes, you've got the actual endpoint. So this is your base URL, and what endpoint are we calling for this API. There's a little test button on the right hand side. So once you've gone and configured any of this, we can do a test to make sure that it's providing the correct response. And you can then see the response data, so you can work out whether everything you expected was to happen, whether that's a post or a get. You can find out what's happened there. Then across the tabs, we've got query parameters that we can use if required. The authorization is either inherited from the integration settings, so that's inherited from this option here, where we will have pre-configured the particular integration on the custom integrations, or you can choose none, and then you can ascertain through headers what the authorization should be. In most cases, it's better to have it inherit from the integration settings. It stores it quite nicely and securely in the custom integration, whereas if you start putting it in headers, you're more likely to leave plain text, keys and secrets knocking about, so you're better off doing it within the integration itself. You have got the ability to add headers. This will all become more prevalent in terms of what you do with this as we go through the rest of the videos. Your body is going to be used whenever there's a kind of a post query, and you're typically going to be using JSON for that. When it's a get, it obviously blanks out the body because you're using basically get and parameters potentially for those requests. Now, output variables are really interesting because output variables allow us to get information from a response and then use that later on in one of the other steps in the runbook. So you could go and query a third-party system and look for a specific customer in a third-party system, and then with the response that comes back from that, you can then take information from it to use later on in a runbook, either through a condition or write it into Halo somewhere. So that's where output variables become really useful. And then one of the other things to note here is we've got a list of available variables, and it starts by having these ticket variables that you can see. Now this is really handy, particularly when you're interacting with a ticket and you're triggering a runbook in a ticket. I've just realized I'm covering the screen. I'll just move myself out of the way. So when we're dealing with a ticket inside of Halo and we're wanting to trigger that into a runbook, we can use these ticket variables straight out of the box. So you can see there's a big list, and there's also the capability to search for here. So if you want to find, for example, something to do with email, they're all custom fields, but the user details, you can get information for the username, for example, or the user ID. Now, whenever the runbook is interacting with a ticket, these are going to be available for you to use straight out of the box without you having to necessarily capture the information in an output variable and have to do extra steps for that. It's really handy. You'll also see there's a drop down for ticket variables. As well as ticket variables, there are action level variables asset variables, customer variables, site variables, user variables, and you've got the list goes on. I thought it was a smaller number in this list, but it's clearly been expanded over the time. The one other thing to note is that there will be, inside of a runbook, there'll also be runbook level variables where we can use output variables captured from previous steps and use them in later steps. So that's generally what a method is. So we've got the custom integrations themselves. And just to recap, they are the authentication details, the base information, such as, the security that's used, authentication, and any base information like base URL. The methods are the API calls specifically, so the individual tasks that you'll be triggering within those custom integrations. And then you've got the integration runbooks. This is where these pieces are put together in a chain. So think of it almost like something you see in Power Automate, where you can chain steps together. So you can go and get information or change something and then do another step as a result. Now, let me just go back, the new runbook option is top right corner, as is the case for a lot of things in Halo. You can see again, there's some example runbooks already in that you can kind of use to reverse engineer how some of these things are working. Let's just take a quick look at one of these. So if we go into one that's already created, you can see the details page here with some interesting functionality here. For example, you can schedule runbooks to run, let's say, every day you want to go and get some information from another system. Bring that into Halo, so you can set a schedule for a runbook. You can also run now, so if it's something that you want to trigger just so it can go in and get the information, potentially something that's normally on a schedule, you can do that. It's worth noting though that ticket variables, the things that I was just talking about before, where it can grab information from a ticket automatically and baked in. Ticket variables and input variables can't be used when you're running a schedule or running now on a runbook. Worth noting. But if we jump over to the flowchart, this is where you'll actually see the steps and how the steps communicate with each other and branch off depending on different situations. So this is a basic makeup of a runbook. So you've got a start action step, and so the start step you can see in green. That's denoted by this is a start step inside the runbook step itself. So you have a start step, that's obviously where everything's going to kick off, and then you'll see you've got these two options within each step. So you've got successful and unsuccessful, and then you can see kind of quite nice and visually where everything's going. You can see that this moves it to the next step, and if successful, it ends up at this end step, which you can see is also in red. This is an end step, and the result is success. So this just says that it's finished, it worked, and so that's kind of the basic makeup of a runbook. Inside of this, you're going to have various steps that are actions that are going to do various steps within your integration. And in a lot of cases, it would be execute an integration method, as we've seen before. They're the individual actions that you're trying to trigger. But you've also got various other ones, such as update variables. You can manage arrays and array iterations within a runbook. And a handy feature that's only come in fairly recently is the run a SQL query on the Halo database. Now that opens up ridiculous possibilities, and I've got some examples of how we've been able to use SQL to take information in, do a lookup on the faults table where all your tickets are, to try and match some parameters to bring back a ticket number and then do something with that ticket. So it gives you some really advanced functionality now that we can do a SQL query within a runbook as well. You've also got these Halo API actions. Now, a lot of times we're creating runbook methods and the API calls that go along with them, but the Halo API action does have some out of the box kind of standard tasks that you might want to do, such as create a ticket or an action, a customer, either create or edit a customer or a site. So there's some things that you can do within Halo without having to go and create a internal Halo API connection at all. So that's quite handy to know, including things like get tickets and get ticket, which again can be handy for getting some of these output variables that you might want. So these are the actions that you would do with inside a runbook, and you can see that at the end we've got either a success if that succeeded, or if it didn't, if it got an unsuccessful response, a failure code of some description, then it would move it to this fail. And you do have options for fail steps as to what to do with them. So here you can see we've got failed, retry from the start. You can class it as failed and don't retry if you don't want to have to keep going back to the start and rerunning it. And obviously you're not going to use success for a failed step, but you've got those kind of two options. You have also got the option to add an outcome, and you can actually specify where to go to now as well with this particular step, which is quite useful. So that's the basic makeup of an integration runbook, and I'm trying to keep all of these videos short so that you can kind of follow these through and concentrate on one thing at a time. So I'm not going to go into building a runbook from scratch on this video, but if you take a look at the next video in the series, we're going to actually start showing you how to create an integration runbook from scratch and how you can leverage this. Okay, so now we've kind of covered the basics. The best thing to do is to skip to the next video or carry on to the next video in this series, and we're going to get a bit more hands-on with the integration runbooks. We're going to show you how to create one from scratch and how to interact with Halo using the API. So take a look at the next video.